it's okay if you don't know everything. Yeah, I think I put that pressure on myself. Like, why don't you know it? Mm-hmm. It's okay when you don't know, and that's your opportunity to ask for help. I think I'm acting on that now for sure, but maybe starting out, not so much. I thought it was something I had to bear and weigh on my own, but you don't have to, and you shouldn't. Like, you should ask for help and receive as much help as you can.
Welcome to 2 Decades Deep podcast. This is a podcast about navigating the ebbs and flows, the highs and lows of your 20s. I'm your host, Taylor Howard, and I'm so happy that you're here. And whether you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, I can't wait for you to watch this episode. Guys, we're in for a treat. We have Morgan Brown on the pod. Nice to meet you and nice to see you in person.
Hi, Taylor. It's so lovely to be here. And yes, connect a name with a face.
Absolutely. And I want to say, I just want to fangirl for a second. I know we're both from like the South suburbs, and I remember like watching you and watching your content growing up. So I'm kind of like in my fangirl moment right now.
Oh, wow. That means a lot. It's been a long time coming.
And we're definitely going to talk about that. And you're the founder of June Skin. And can you explain for those who are unfamiliar, what is June Skin? And can you describe a little bit of the pinch me moments that you've had so far since launching?
Yeah, of course. Well, June Skin is a skincare brand, a gentle, barrier-supportive skincare brand for women with sensitive and compromised skin. We just officially launched at the top of this year, actually, just a few months ago. So far, we have had some incredible milestones, I think, for a small new brand who's just getting out there on the market. We did an exclusive with Essence for our launch, which was just incredible. I think when that article came out, it felt like the official launch day for the company. And just a few weeks ago, we were named by Birdie as an emerging new brand who's shaping the face of beauty and wellness. So yeah, some really incredible things have already come, which makes the journey feel like it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, and we know we're going to talk all about the journey, why you decided to start June Skin a little bit later in the conversation. But I also want to know, can you describe a little bit of these feelings of being in the launch phase? Because I know that people have different emotions or different feelings of what it takes to launch something.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about how you're feeling?
I think, to be very honest, coming into launch was, can I swear?
Yeah, you
on
can.
Here? It was a shit show. Okay. And I think it's just a combination of nerves, a little anxiety, like, is it right? Does it look good? Will people get it? But those have calmed now. Now we're over a month in since launch, almost 2 months. I definitely feel like we're getting our footing. Again, we're still new and fresh, but yeah, I don't have a lot of those nerves or like those malfunctions anymore. I think that's what it was early on. Like our website crashed on launch day, which people can say, oh, that's a good thing, but no, like, we want as many people to get their hands on the product as possible. So that was a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, we're all good. The website is great, myjuneskin.com if you want to shop. But yeah, I feel a lot better where we are.
Yeah. And it is a beautiful website. I looked at it this morning, and I definitely empathize with starting something. It's like these random things that you never account for that happen. You're just like, oh my God, like how did that happen?
Literally, yes.
Yeah, totally. But we know that being an entrepreneur is not something that you just stumbled upon. It's actually in your blood. It's in your bloodline with your dad. Yeah. Can you explain what was it like to grow up and watching your dad be an entrepreneur? He had a Harold's, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm a second generation entrepreneur after my dad, and he was a serial entrepreneur. He had a barbershop like first, so he went to barber school, and then he got into the restaurant business. We had a family business with Harold's. And then before he passed, he had a nonprofit. So he kind of bounced all over, but really never gave up on entrepreneurship.
And what we could say, or it would be safe to say that probably was like a subconscious, like, spark for you to start entrepreneurship. But what are some of the memories that you remember with your dad navigating being like multiple businesses?
I think outside of the business would be my fondest ones. I think it was the autonomy I saw that he had, being an entrepreneur, being his own boss. He was able to spend more time with his family. Like, we had one-on-one outings that I know my friends like didn't have with their parents because they were working like 9 to 5s. But sometimes in the middle of the day, me and my dad could just go out. And I was like, oh, like, this is normal for me, but I know it's not normal for everybody. And I really, those are my fondest memories, like with him, those moments when we were just able to spend time together, like outside of just like normal maybe parent time. Yeah. Also, I think seeing how family oriented you can be with a family business specifically, the way you can bring your family into what you're working on and allow them to support you, hold you up when you need them, be in place when you need them to be in place, was really nice to see, and definitely inspired me to involve my family in our business, June now, today.
Absolutely. It seems like you identified at an early age there was a lot of autonomy. Yeah. There was a lot of freedom. I mean, your dad worked really hard, but he was also able to tend to his family. And it's really refreshing that you say that you all were able to do a family business well. Some people say, like, don't work with your friends, don't work with your family. So you are a proof point that you can work with your family.
Absolutely.
And it can be really rewarding.
You need your family. Like, and I'm a family-oriented person. And it's just what I was raised in, and what I've seen or saw. But yeah, like, I want my family like with me along the ride. I trust my family. I love my family. We're very close. Yeah, and they like, your family knows you, right? So when you have those moments where you just don't know and they come in entrepreneurship, your family can fill in those holes like no other. So yeah, family is really important in business as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we're going to touch back on June Skin at the tail of the conversation, but you've had quite the trajectory to get where you are today. We know you're a business owner. We also know that you went to very prestigious universities. Yeah. But let's start from the beginning. Can you tell me who you were growing up? Did you always want to be in business, or did you have any other ambitions?
I think so. At least I knew I wanted to be my own boss. This just came up when we were interviewing for the Essence piece. I remember maybe I was like in 3rd grade, no older than 4th, and there was some class project where we had to draw our future selves, and I drew myself, some stick figure of me, in front of this huge factory. I remember it was purple because it is my favorite color. And I don't know if I necessarily said, like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I know what I meant in the photo. It was me in front of, like, my own thing, my building. So I think I had the spirit of entrepreneurship, but didn't have the words for it yet. But yeah, as a child, very spirited. I was into performing arts. I remember being very confident. Like, it didn't take much to nudge me or kind of get me to do something. And maybe most of the time it wasn't someone getting me to do something. It was me, like, doing it on my own. Whether that was standing in front of a crowd and speaking, or I had a dance background too. It was me just going up and performing and just moving my body however I wanted to. Yeah, I had that like really young, and I see that carrying into my entrepreneurship journey. But even before I got there, it definitely ushered me into YouTube, which was another big like milestone or a big part of the story as well.
Yeah, and we know a lot of people can say, oh, I got this from my parents, but a lot of the stuff that you also simultaneously was also just ingrained in you, like the confidence and the creativity, etc. You mentioned YouTube, and I would love to know, because I think a lot of people see where we are today, but would love to know like where we started. What inspired you to start a YouTube channel, and what age were you?
I was, it was like 2011, 2012. So how old were we? We were in high school. We were in high school. Yeah. So it was before I went to college. I was a consumer just of beauty already, and the beauty community on YouTube at that time was huge.
It was.
So just for fun, like girl things, I was figuring out how to do my makeup, whatever that meant at the time. Like I wasn't definitely applying makeup like this, but it was still fun to watch people do their tutorials, hair tutorials, skincare that was starting to get big at the time. And I think I was just watching other women, specifically Black women, on YouTube and saying like, oh, like if they're doing it, that's something that I could do, but in my own way. I already felt confident enough to stand in front of a camera, speak to a camera. Again, I had that performing arts like background. I was in theater in high school. I also did competitive speaking. So yeah, it just felt natural enough in a way to be a creative outlet. Because at the time, I was no longer dancing, and that was a big like creative thing for me. And when I got into theater and performing arts, I was like, oh, this feels the same. It feels like dance. So being able to set up my own camera, like produce my own show in a way, it felt like that release that I was looking for. And honestly, it felt really easy to do.
Yeah, I will say I always wanted to be a journalist. I've always wanted to do things in front of the camera, but it was not a natural thing that I was able to develop. I had to actively work on it. Yeah. And so you to be able to be like, no, I just turned the camera on and I just started and I figured it out as I go. I think that is absolutely amazing. I don't want to simplify it, but I think that that's really cool that you were able to just work on it and then develop from there.
And you know, sometimes I like what you just said, like sometimes you have to simplify it. And I think back on that version of me, that younger girl, and I want some of that like go get that she had. Like just do it. Like if you feel the urge, if this is something that you really enjoy or something that you're passionate about, like that's enough. I recall some of that energy like now as an older woman.
And speaking of the younger version of you, I feel like high school is such like a weird, awkward phase where you feel fake grown, where you feel like you are starting to develop, maybe this is what I want to be, this is the path I want to take. Yeah. And when you were dealing with that, like navigating that, how did you feel about success? Or did you have a plan of how you wanted to carve your life out? Because I know when you were in fourth grade, you said I had the picture, but I couldn't really piece it right. together. Now in your high school self, you have YouTube, you're probably getting ready to apply for school or higher education. So what was your mindset like, if you can recall that?
I think at that time, like back in high school, it was just fun. Now, I did, again, the women that I were watching on YouTube, I began to see them like carve some type of career. These were women that, they weren't my peers necessarily, like they were a bit older. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're figuring out something. Also, I was seeing a lot of the attention that the beauty industry was giving to, we didn't have the word influencers at the time, but these creators, where they were starting to leverage their platforms for their product marketing. And storytelling was already something I was interested in. Like I was creating like little home videos. So that began me thinking, well, what is going to be my next steps in terms of college? All right, like storytelling is something I'm really good at naturally. I like product. Marketing piqued my interest. So it wasn't really until I got to college, and I did choose Wharton for the Penn for the business program at Wharton. It wasn't until college when I began sharing with my professors what I was working on that I said, oh, like this could be a full-time thing by the time I graduate from here. So maybe about my sophomore year is when I really started putting pen to paper, a bit more strategy, and started carving out my lane.
Absolutely. We're going to go into what was it like for you to navigate being at such a prestigious university in a second, but we have to understand that there was a lot of gaps when it came to beauty and even the perception of beauty, especially for women of color, Black women in particular. Yeah. Do you recall or identify maybe some of the gaps when you were just getting into the beauty space when you were younger?
Yeah, definitely representation. Like there were a handful of creators or beauty influencers, what we know now, that looked like me. And even when I wouldn't have called myself a beauty influencer because I did a bunch of stuff on YouTube. If you know, you know. But even like seeing myself and other creators at the time, the ones that were really popular, it didn't exist. So yeah, I think seeing myself, so me being represented, but in beauty, And again, I wasn't like heavily into makeup where I was swatching product or, telling you what to buy at Sephora or Ulta. But in the creators that I did watch, I saw that there were big issues in shade matching, finding colors that were pigmented enough to actually show like on the skin. Feeling like when you actually got invited to these events, like these beauty events, you being the only one. Like that definitely was apparent as I was watching others like scale in their career, and something that I was mindful of.
Yeah, because I really want to hone in on that because I feel like that shapes how we show up in today's spaces and the gaps that we try to fill in our own perspective field. But let's go into your experience at your university. Yeah. So you got your degree in marketing. Can you just share what the experience was like to be at such an esteemed university?
Oh, girl. Okay, I have to be honest. My first year at Penn was really hard. It was a challenge. Like, from Chicago, I grew up here, and everybody who I was around that did well, they looked like me. And it wasn't until I left Chicago and I got to Penn where that was the first time I felt like I was the only one. So that was really hard navigating. My freshman year, it was tough. It wasn't really until my sophomore year where I began putting myself out there, finding things that I liked and enjoyed. I found a dance group, going back to dance, that I joined. It was multicultural, so I got to meet people from everywhere, but I also found those friends that felt like my home friends and looked like my home friends, and that helped like ease my Penn journey. But initially, it was no joke. But I will say, I think I challenged myself a lot. I think I always was like that. I'm glad that I put myself up to the challenge and I didn't give up, because I did really get to see what the world is like outside of the walls that I grew up in. You really get to see how other people think who's not like you, how the majority thinks, how the people who's running these big companies that affect our lives, how they think, how they move. I learned a lot like there and was able to take that in and also share, took what I learned and then bring it back to my community in a way. But the challenge was definitely a challenge.
And can you explain, just in your level of comfortability, maybe some of the challenges that you dealt with? I know that people deal with imposter syndrome. People deal with, feeling like, am I supposed to be here? Things of that nature. So from your own experience, can you share a little bit about that?
I think so on the other side, I think for a lot of my peers, it was the first time they met somebody like me. So I heard things that I've never heard before, but I heard that I could come off as aggressive, that I was maybe too spirited. And I'm from Chicago. So like, it was nothing that hurt my feelings, but it did make me go like, oh, you guys just never met like somebody like me, and vice versa. So I think it was, maybe that was the biggest thing, just hearing other people, not like me culturally, like racially, describe me in a way that didn't feel true. And maybe, to be transparent, maybe that taught me how I saw myself navigating even outside of Penn, because I knew the world wasn't like home in Chicago, at least where I was trying to go. So it did, and this is something like Black women can relate to. You can get into certain spaces and you know how to posture, you know how to come across in the way that you need to. So there was some good in that, but I think hearing those things that I didn't feel that was true, was meaningful, and it definitely felt like something that I will always remember and take with me into my career, into the future, into this world that we have to all navigate.
It's really unfortunate that society puts these perspectives on us and we just almost have to like be engulfed in it. I've had weird situations with that too, with people thought that I was like very confident or too confident, and just getting those like microaggressions and
yes.
and how you navigate it is very personal and specific, but you said in your specific example how you were able to kind of turn that into a challenge and find people, like instead of being like, okay, I'll just find the people that are for me. So what was that light bulb switch?
It had to do a lot to do with me. It was about me getting out there, putting myself out there, and realizing that, okay, this environment may look a little different, but you could place yourself in it. Like, there are spaces here that you could relate to. And the way I was able to find those was just going back to the things that I loved. And it was in that dance group. It was just going back to dance. And even there was a fashion collective I was involved in. And at the time on YouTube, like I was talking a little bit about my personal fashion and beauty. So just finding those cohorts that you could relate to definitely changed the trajectory of my time there.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how it shaped who you were personally, but going to where you are professionally, so it was cool to see that you were still continuing YouTube, still in the beauty space, probably look different because you're getting older and navigating in like a college space. But what do you recall that really also shaped you business-wise?
Definitely sharing with my professors. My marketing professors at Penn were so encouraging and helpful and excited about what I was building. And it makes me think about all the teachers that I actually had, like, throughout my life. It's those people that keep you moving forward and keep pen to paper. But I remember there was one professor, he was a marketing professor, and at the time we were studying like social media, but specifically maybe it was about marketing analytics. And I ended up sharing with him like one day after class, like, hey, I actually have a YouTube channel and have some real-time data that I can share. And he was just so like overjoyed and was excited to help me, not necessarily map the plan, but help me apply what I was learning in the classroom to what the data that I actually had. So I think about those moments and those people who didn't make me feel like what I was doing was, yes, it was different, but that it wasn't bad. Like, different doesn't have to be bad at all.
And when you say you were building, was this in the beauty space or was it very specific to that particular class?
Wait, can you clarify?
You said that your professors believed in what you were building.
Yeah.
What were you building in that time?
I think it was about the community, right? Even back then, I was at Penn 2014 to 2018. So this was probably like my sophomore year, so around 2015, 2016. In marketing, like the social media bubble was starting. Like a lot of people had pages just personally. And then there were a few people, a handful, a group of people who were kind of leveraging it as their own personal like platform. I remember what stood out, even in class, it wasn't just about like how the numbers, like how many followers you got, but it was like what you're doing, what you were actually doing with the group of people that you were bringing in. That's how we were defining community. And I was even using those words. Like I didn't feel so, I was excited. Like when a video did so well and you're like, oh my God, this has 10 million views. Like that's huge. Mm-hmm. It's nothing to take for granted. But it was more so, I felt more excited about like the women that I was able to bring together on one page in one comment section. Like the women that was relating to these can't call them little, but girlhood, womanhood moments that we all like felt or dealt with. So it was, I think, what we were building and what we are hearing like a lot now is a community of women that wants to come together and support, or a community of women that wants to come together to support one another. That's where I knew I was going, even then.
You've always had from this conversation, just a community-minded focus.
Yeah.
And I also think that the comment section is so underrated because you can really see, okay, I know how I feel, but what are other people feeling? And that also subconsciously shapes how you navigate and how you show up in these spaces.
Exactly.
I do want to take a slight shift, and I want to read this quote. Lupita, the actress, said, "I discovered that joy is not negation of pain, but rather acknowledging the presence of pain and feeling happiness in spite of it." And so I do want to address, I know that your father passed, your junior year of college?
Yeah.
Can you discuss, I mean, your in your dance team, you're navigating school, you're doing YouTube, and then you had the passing of your father. Can you walk me through that season if you're comfortable doing that?
Yeah. I was finishing my junior year and was going into my last year at Wharton. And my dad wasn't sick. Like, he wasn't in the hospital when he passed. His passing was sudden. I was actually traveling at the time. I was visiting a friend from Penn. I was in the Philippines. I was far away. And my sister was throwing a really big birthday party. And she's like, Morgan, like, you have to come. You have to make it. Initially, I was leaving. That was like my summer trip. I was going right back to Philly to get ready for school. And last minute, I ended up changing my travel plans and made it back to Chicago for her party. And that was the last family celebration we all had together, but I think it was nothing but God's timing to get me back there. And I was getting ready to go back to Philly. So we had the party. I spent a few days at home. We had some really good, like, family moments, some moments that I think back on and I go, like, I wonder, did he have, like, a feeling? Because there were really sweet, sweet moments. Like, me, my mom, my sister, and my dad had all together. And some things that my dad said that was like, oh, okay, that I think on now, like, in hindsight. So I was getting ready to go back to Philly from Chicago. And I landed and got the call. So, like, I just seen him just hours before then. My world stopped, you know, as anybody could imagine, like, losing a parent, and you really don't know until you know. I can't even tell you, to be very honest, like, what was going through my head, if anything, like, was there. But I do remember that I took a few days alone before I came back to Chicago, because I don't know if I was, like, just ready to accept something like that, especially because just a few hours before my world was normal. And now something so big like this, like losing a parent, has happened. And I felt like I didn't have any type of playbook. Like, me as a person, I feel like I always have a plan. Even when something, like, finds its way in, I'm going to have a plan. But this was something I didn't have a plan for. So I took a break from YouTube after that, a long break, because I wasn't sure what it meant for my life and how I was going to show up as, rather. So I took the summer back in Chicago, but I did go back to school, like, that fall and finished the year. I think it was what he would have wanted, and I was like, well, what else, like, would I do? So it took me a while to get back to YouTube, but I do remember that is what really initiated my, like, health and wellness journey. I began coming back online and just sharing about my grief, like, this is what I was going through, how I was feeling. Here and there was spotty. I wasn't so consistent. But it opened me up and my content to a world that I didn't know existed, and so many other Black women like me didn't either.
So you mentioned that this also opened up, like, through your content space, it opened up another avenue or another part of your experience. I wanted to make sure that I use that quote because I think that two things can be true, that within pain can also birth joy and also birth different things. So that's when you slowly but surely start to introduce the wellness side of your life. And a lot of people look at wellness through only, like, okay, skincare or, like, working out, but it also is cathartic to speak out what's going on in your life. And so can you talk about maybe some of the things that you did to take care of yourself during your grief period or on beyond?
Yeah, skincare, that was huge. I always was a beauty girl, I think, like, just watching my mother, like a lot of us. My, like, probably fondest memory, I was maybe like 6 or 7, just watching her at her like beauty counter, applying her creams and spraying her perfumes. It's like, well, that's exactly like who I want to be. So skincare was something I was all familiar with. And I began, though, like, doing my routine, almost like they were markers in my day, like shortly after, like losing my dad. It's what marked the start of my day and what marked the end of my day. Because during that time, like, you lose count.
Yeah.
So I rely heavily on my routines, my skincare routines, as just little moments to myself. And they were self-care moments. But that is what, like, spiraled the world of wellness. But yeah, it started just with skincare.
So I want to backtrack just for a second. So you graduated in 2017, correct? 2018.
Yeah.
Then you moved to New York.
Yeah.
And then are you simultaneously also like, okay, I'm getting into my skincare routine. I'm starting to develop that side. When you moved to New York, did you start thinking about June Skin yet? Or did you start going into your career?
Yeah, I was thinking about June Skin. It wasn't the June Skin we know today, but it was on my mind. So June is named after the month I lost my dad. He passed in June of 2017. So it was sitting on me for a while. I had the name, but I wasn't sure what vehicle it will be in at the time. And then skincare was just personal to me, but I didn't say, like, June will be a skincare line. No.
Yeah. And so when you're in New York and then you had a full-time corporate job, or were you a content creator?
Yeah, I was able to work on my YouTube
Period.
full-time. Yeah. I knew that sophomore year, I said, aha, like, something is here. Yeah, I was full-time as a creator when I moved to New York.
So what was that light bulb moment? Because I feel like everyone, when I started 2 Decades Deep, it was an idea. And I was like, okay. Yeah. Then it kept coming. It kept festering. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to implement it and put it into action. Yeah. You thought of June. You're thinking, okay, I'm thinking about it. But when did it actually become a moment where you're like, I actually want to do this?
Maybe it was about 3 years ago, really. Like, I've had the name, again, for a while. Wasn't sure what it was going to be. But the more I got into the beauty world, so living in New York, I mean, everybody is there. So as a creator, I was just exposed to different like beauty companies having like one-on-one time with a lot of the formulators or the dermatologists that were on board for the brands. Sometimes I was meeting like the founder themselves and really just sparking up conversation, like sharing my story. And once or twice somebody said, well, you should start a brand. And that didn't feel intimidating because remember when I was in 4th grade, I was like, well, I can have my own thing. But it wasn't until I was at a beauty event for a beauty retailer. And I ended up meeting someone from their marketing team, and I'm just chatting her up like we're chatting and just saying like, hey, this is my story. Like, I think this is what I want to do, but I'm not sure. And she goes, oh my God, my husband is like head of product development at this lab here in the city. I'm going to connect you guys tonight. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I'll just put you guys on email and like, we could just see where it goes. And that was 3 years ago not to date, but about 3 years ago. And it was that first conversation that started the development journey for us.
I think what is such an underrated thing that a lot of business owners don't always talk about is just what it's like to be introduced to someone that could change the trajectory of your life. Exactly. Can you walk me through that moment? Because I'm pretty sure you're just kikiing.
Literally.
And then she's like, actually, there's something there.
Yes.
Walk me through that time period. Like, were you making pitch decks? Like, explain that little period when you had that conversation.
Not yet. I remember we got on the phone immediately too. So, she sent me an email. She wasn't playing. And I just talked to her recently and let her know, like, this has come to fruition. But she put us on email that night. And maybe a few days later, I was on a call with her husband, who was the head of product development for this huge like contract manufacturing lab in New York. And that's a big deal. Like, think of really big brands. They're formulating or developing their product there. But I remember getting on the phone, and honestly, Taylor, I didn't have to say much. I think that he was super excited about me being this Wharton student turned creator who grew this massive community online, who now wants to leverage this community. I was kind of quiet. He maybe asked me a few questions, but at the end of that conversation, he was like, we'll take you on. Let's develop the product of your dreams. It felt like, I can't take the credit. Like, it felt like God was intervening and said, it's time. Go. This is like the start of this. Now, I didn't end up like manufacturing with that lab, but it was such a turning point because he really helped me figure out what it takes, to do this. He gave me really like the basis of like how we were going to formulate what I wanted, what I didn't like. Like, he really helped me build the skeleton. So by the time I met who we manufacture with now, I was like off running. Like, I know exactly what I want. So yeah, it felt like God intervened like right then.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so powerful. I mean, you were saying I barely said anything, and he was just excited. But I think that just shows, and that's a testament. I mean, everyone's story is different, but it's a testament that you just need that one yes or that one green light to really like launch your trajectory. We're gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna circle back to like the process of June Skin, but I want to segue to this segment called "Is It Really That Deep?" So you get the opportunity from your own perspective and your own expertise to debunk maybe some questions that people have around skincare and beauty.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is it really that deep to have a 10-step routine for skincare?
No, it doesn't have to be. I think skincare can be fun, where you have these different like boosters and serums and all these little things you can add, masks, that at the end of it, you're like, wow, I just did 10 steps. But if I think about what feels essential, like to me, it's about 5 steps.
And yeah, because I remember like I was doing all these steps and one was canceling out the other.
Yeah, literally. You can mess up.
Yeah. What would you say, like, for your own skin? What are the steps that you take?
I think the essential routine is a cleanser, a toner, a serum, a repair step, which is your moisturizer, and where you could use the essential cream, and then SPF. Always.
Period. I do that.
Yeah. I can tell. Your skin looks good.
Oh my God, stop. Don't make me blush.
No, it is.
Okay, perfect. I do think, because a lot of people are like there's like over saturation of like, okay, all these routines, and I think they're great. Like you said, it's fun.
Yeah.
But it don't have to be that deep.
Yeah, lay low.
Yeah, lay low. Yeah. Speaking of laying low, is it really that deep to have more expensive skincare, or is it okay to go a little bit on the low end for it?
I think it's okay. Skincare can be fun. It could get premium. Sometimes it can get too expensive, like even for me. I have tried like $400 serums, and I'm like, this is not doing what my $30 serum is doing, Mm-hmm. So you test it. But yeah, you could go all over with skincare for sure.
Absolutely. And you mentioned testing things. So is it really that deep that if something doesn't work or a product doesn't work within 30 to 45 days, that it's not for you?
I may agree with that. I think 28 days is a really good marker. That's our skin cycle. So that's when our skin like renews itself. By 28 days, you should have or see some result. So yeah, within that window, if it's not doing anything for you, maybe try something else.
And also with that, is it really that deep that you should switch your products so your skin doesn't get used to them?
Oh, I don't believe that one. I have some tried and true products, one being the essential cream. Like, I've been using it for over a year now, probably a little bit longer, but in its final form as it is today, it's been over a year. And to me, it's like my go-to essential moisturizer. And I can think of other products that I'm like, no. When I need some hyaluronic acid, I know I'm using this hyaluronic acid serum. Or I have a very specific go-to SPF. Like, I've been using it for years. No, I think you could go back to what works.
She said, don't fix what ain't broke.
No, okay. No, don't. That's when you mess up, you know? You can mess up that way.
And I think, like, from my own point of view, I think sometimes I also get very influenced. Like, if I see that, oh my God, this Black creator that I'm obsessed with uses this, let me just completely negate that works really well to do that. And I don't know, like, I don't know if that's a bad thing to be influenced, but I want to know, is it really that deep to like fall into the consumption of like falling into some of these trends?
I think what could help ground us is always knowing like what works for your skin. So skincare is very personal and you do have a responsibility for your own care. So as you're trying out products, learn like, okay, the ones that work, why do they work? Maybe look at their ingredients, see what's the star, and it's something should click or you should go like, oh, like my skin really likes this type of acid. So if you're online and your favorite influencer is selling something that maybe isn't that one that you really like, at least you know how to go to the ingredients and kind of like look for what you know. And maybe you've had an experience, an unpleasant experience with a product or an ingredient that you know this doesn't work for my skin. So when you have those moments where somebody's online and they feel excited about a product, you know what to go check before you go buy.
Absolutely. And the last one is it really that deep that stress doesn't affect your skin?
Stress affects our skin, especially Black women. I mean, all skin. But Black women are disproportionately affected by stress. And we see it in our skin a lot of the time, really our overall health. But stress is a big indicator in how our skin health maintains itself.
The food that I partake in, I was eating so bad in college and my skin was acting up. And I didn't realize how much the physical, the food that you consume, all that stuff really affect you.
Yes, it does. It really is a 360 approach. And maybe it wasn't until I got into my skincare and as the doors start opening, I realized, oh, everything is actually connected. What we eat, what we're applying topically, how we maintain our mental health, our stress levels. They all play with one another. Yes.
And I think that plays into the intentionality behind your business. But is there anything else that you feel like is underrated or maybe people don't really know about in regards to skincare that you really do think is deep or not that deep?
I am all for barrier supporting products. I think in skincare right now, there is, and maybe it's always been, it's a lot of noise. It's a lot of products out there, and you may feel like you want to try everything. And sometimes you may find yourself trying something, whether it be a product or a treatment, where your skin like doesn't react well to it. And you don't necessarily have anything in your arsenal, your skincare toolkit, to help like repair your skin like back to health. So for me, it is that deep to always have something barrier supporting in my skincare lineup, whether it be my moisturizer, which I think is a great way to use a barrier supporting product. But there's so many out there. So definitely having, something barrier supporting. It is that deep.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for playing. Yeah. And I think going back to that intentionality and also going back to like filling gaps, I know, and I read somewhere that you recognize that you were even giving advice on skincare and you were seeing the gaps of like what is missing in the industry. So I know that it was kind of stumbled upon you to start June Skin, like it was a little bit expedited, and you mentioned that God intervened on your behalf. But let's talk about the process from when you had that initial meeting, you worked with the manufacturer, to when you started to actually implement the products.
Clarify, what do you mean implementing the products?
Like when you actually started, okay, I want to start with the barrier aspect of the brand. Okay. When you actually started like figuring out what you wanted to do with it.
So I had the first meeting with the first contract manufacturer. I wasn't able to continue with them because what happens when you work with a manufacturer, they set some type of MOQ. And sometimes that MOQ could be 5 to 10,000 units. That means you have to make that PO, that purchase order, at one time. Small brands who aren't like capital backed, that's not something you can invest in. I couldn't personally invest in that. So we end up moving on to another like lab, and I think they just we weren't aligned on the product that I wanted to create. So that didn't work. Okay. But every step I'm moving closer and closer, because what happens is you take these first calls and you may just meet with their coordinator, right? But then eventually you get to their internal R&D teams. So at these contract manufacturers, they have people, their own teams, internal, that could formulate your product for you. So by the time I met the lab that we work with now, I pretty much had like a sheet of, this is what I want to include. Like, these are my ingredients. This is the texture. This is the type of product, of course. And it was just a matter of me collabing like with their chemists, their in-house chemists, and formulating. So it takes like some hours, like more than some hours, but you're committing like time with them to work closely with them. And I think that's why me and the lab that who we partner with now, really hit it off. Because I can tell the founder, it is women founded, and our R&D team is women of color led. So I can tell their commitment to creating what I truly desire, and understood like who we were serving, like our customer, and the problems that they were facing. Like, they were really committed to figuring it out with me. And that really stood out. And the reason why like we was able to work together. So I don't formulate anything. It's you collabing with their teams. You make something, and then you eventually manufacture it.
Absolutely. And I know that it requires extensive hours, a lot of work, but I'm also sure that it is something that you also had to invest in when it comes to your mental health as well. Did you ever have experiences where maybe you were doubtful, or you were sure, like, I don't know if I'm capable, or if this is possible, or I really want to do this for real? Can you walk me through that process as well?
I think I always knew I wanted to do it. Yeah. I don't think I said this is something I can't do. And shout out to my parents, for instilling that early. There's nothing that I couldn't do. Like, why not? Nothing beats a fail but a try. At least like you tried. So mentally, I felt strong because it was, again, it was tied to such a like emotional story, a founding story. It started with my dad. Mm-hmm. It began feeling like, oh, this is my mission, maybe. So there was nothing that I felt was getting in my way of that. However, entrepreneurship, it could be heavy. Like, there are barriers, there are challenges that could weigh on your mental health. That has weighed on my mental health. Mm-hmm. But thank God for those therapies and modalities that I've been introduced to in the health and wellness space that I'm able to heavily rely on. So not to say that those moments don't come, but I do have me a little toolkit that I bring out, or that I could, rely on to get me back on path.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a strong statement of, you were like, I've always felt like I can achieve it. And I just want to say that that's absolutely amazing, because I feel like society kind of makes women of color feel like they have to actually be insecure, and they actually feel like they can't overcome stuff. And so it's almost like ingrained in us to feel like we had to struggle, or we had to overcome all these thoughts in order to achieve. But I love that you credited your parents for that.
Absolutely. Like, there was nothing that I couldn't do as a kid. Why not? Go try it and see. Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that you even mentioned, okay, it didn't work with this company. It didn't work with this company. It didn't work with this company. But as you're simultaneously learning, and by the time that you actually were with the people that you're with now, you had your list, you had everything prepared.
Exactly.
And I think that's so good for the audience to hear about, like, these weren't failures. These were just lessons, and you were able to take something, I'm sure, away from each process.
Exactly. Yes.
Going into entrepreneur life, so it was about a 3-year process,
yes.
Right? I saw this quote that you said with Birdie. We have to remember that in order to come out on the other side of this as better people, we need to show up for ourselves first.
Yeah.
So I know that you mentioned with the loss of your dad, that's when you really start to introduce the wellness aspect, your skincare routine. What does that look like today, or how has your wellness evolved since then?
It's definitely expanded. Like, my world is much bigger, Definitely before, like, losing my dad, it was a beauty routine. Like, it was something that made you look good. But after losing my dad, it definitely turned into a survival routine. I mentioned, like, my skincare was my marker in my day. It's what got me up in the morning and what laid me down at night. And I really do feel and hope that as beauty consumers, we began championing our health first and watching that transformation, because it does, I feel, I've seen and experienced, like, it starts with, one, how we're feeling on the inside, like our internal, and that absolutely like radiates and shows on the outside.
And what does, I mean, I know no day's the same, but what does the day in the life of an entrepreneur look like? Because I know it can take a lot out of you and you're pulled in different directions and there's fires that come up. I know it all too well. Yeah. But how are you able, like when you walk through your day in the life, can you integrate when you do take time for yourself and when you do fill your cup back up?
I think the morning and night routine are still really big markers for me. Like, I get up every morning and I am doing my skincare. But now, like, my morning routine could be a little, maybe it's longer, or it extends beyond skincare. So I will do my like facial routine. I apply my essential cream, and then I'm probably going downstairs and I'm having a green juice. Like, I juice every week, and sometimes I'm juicing like every day, depends on the schedule. I now have a pretty like okay like vitamin lineup. Nutrition is really big for me, so I'm trying to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That doesn't always happen, days get crazy. But I know how to fuel myself with what I need. So I'm probably going to have 2 eggs every day. Definitely having some type of protein. I'm drinking like protein shakes now. When I'm working out, like, I have learned how to plug and chug, and it has a lot to do with, again, that responsibility that we actually have over our wellness and well-being. It has a lot to do with like the education, that like the time that I took to educate myself on what I need. My doctor visits, so I'm pretty up to date like on my blood work and any vitamin deficiency. So where there's a hole, like, I know how to fill it and give myself exactly like what I need. At night, still doing my skincare. I may have a cup of tea, to really wind down. I'm trying to get better at winding myself down earlier. Like, I've locked in the bedtime, but sometimes I'm getting to bed at that time, and then it takes me an hour to get to sleep. So I've really been focusing a lot on sleep lately. I used to use the Google Nest. I don't know if you've tried that.
I think I've heard of it.
It's a sleep tracker. It's a sleep tracker, but it was really interesting to see some of the data, like actually measuring like how long you sleep and how long you're in a deep sleep. So yeah, I still have fun with trying like new products, but the basis of my routine is pretty much there. So I'm pretty consistent both morning and night.
And I think you raise a point of it really does matter to be consistent, and it really does matter to be intentional about what you're doing with that consistency. Because I can consistently be on my phone, or I can consistently be eating out, but it really matters about what you're actually spending your time doing. I have a few more questions, but I want to talk about your product. Can you talk a little bit about it, and when did you feel like that was the priority product to launch, or is that safe to say?
Yeah, definitely. This is our baby, our debut product. This is the Essential Cream. It is a daily barrier building face cream. So it is something that you will use both morning and night. It fits as your moisturizer, or fits in as your moisturizer. So it's probably like your 4th step in your routine. So we recommend cleansing, toning, treating, which is your serum, repairing, which is the Essential Cream, and then in the daytime using an SPF. I knew this was the product because even just back to the beginning of R&D, I just was thinking to myself, like, which product in my routine felt essential? Which one do I heavily rely on and use every day? And it was a face cream. Like, women use face creams, whether you have, a 10-step skincare routine or one that's kind of non-existent. You know that you need to apply some type of a lotion on your face every day. And really, the data supported it. So over 70% of women use a face cream daily. So it was like, like, this is exactly where we want to go. And it felt true.
Absolutely. And so I don't want to harp too much into this, but I really want to hone in on how much it takes to really launch something. Because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So you did research, and you pitched, found the company you want to work with. You did research and development. Once you found that team, and once you start to figure out what type of ingredients you want to incorporate, what happened from there?
So then you go into testing. That was really big for us from the beginning. I knew that I wanted a brand that our customers could trust, and that includes investing in your testing pretty early on. So after you get like a final formula, final on paper, because there's still some iterations that you can do after that. We began perception testing. So we brought a small group of women in our target demographic, and they tested the cream for a period of time. We took in their feedback, iterated some more, tested it again, got their feedback, tested it again. I think we went through about 3 rounds of testing before we landed on this final formula for batching. So yeah, it takes, some time. Testing could take up to maybe like 12 weeks, depending on the type of test that you're doing. But that was our immediate next step after we felt like we were confident with what we had on paper. And then after your testing, after you sign off, you can batch and manufacture and put it in your jars.
And was that fun? Because you're a creative person. Was it fun to come up with like the aesthetic of the bottle and things?
Yeah.
I know you're like glowing right now.
Yeah. I think the creative is my favorite part. I mean, I'm a business student, so business school student. So I like the strategy. Like I like that work too. I've come to like it because it's important in your business. But the creative is really where I shine. I knew I wanted it. Actually, it took a few iterations to land on this jar. Initially, we were doing like a pump. We were doing something, never plastic. I was like, I can't do plastic. But I do remember the jar originally was being some type of pump bottle. There was some things, though, from the beginning that I wasn't negotiating on. So glass, we still have glass. The blue, that is our brand color. It was actually my dad's favorite color. The name, like the logo font, like there was things that felt pretty like constant. And then you learn, like as you begin producing, like there are some things you have to tweak. Like maybe we can't use that font, or maybe we need to make it slightly bigger. Maybe we need to add. So yeah, you iterate until you finally go, wow, I'm really happy with this.
And now now you launched, and now you're in the process of it being in stores. Could you share some of the stores of where we could find this?
So right now we are direct to consumer, so you can shop June at myjuneskin.com or follow us on our Instagram page at myjuneskin. Really want to be omni-channel where you can find us all over. So there's a tap to shop on Instagram. But if you're old school, you could just go directly to our website.
Absolutely. Ask some reflective questions, because we've talked a lot about, school, your upbringing, et cetera. What do you feel like is something, because everyone has our different experiences and shapes how we show up, as I've mentioned. But what do you think, if you can recall on your experience about seeing your dad start a business, and then also your experience at school, how do you think those have shaped how you are as a businesswoman?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It made me like who I am today. I think the important lessons, he taught me a lot, but the most important ones that absolutely ring true from my father, actually it goes outside of just like business acumen. It was how you treat people. Like you to do well, you have to treat people well. And that's something that I'm very mindful of in my business and outside of my business. Like how you help people, how you can bring people in, how people view and think of you is really important to how you're going to excel in your own life. And something I will always remember is how my dad treated people and how well received it always was. Yeah.
And when you think about the legacy and you being a second generation entrepreneur, what do you think, or how do you think your dad would feel to know that you've launched June Skin and that you're a full-time entrepreneur and creator?
Oh, I think he'll be really proud, Yeah, I think that he'll be happy to see it. Yeah.
And with legacy, I know that's such a strong word for us to be younger, but what do you want people to experience or remember about June Skin?
That's a great question. I think, and what I have experienced is when you change your skincare philosophy, you can transform your overall well-being. I think that skincare can be a great starting point. It was for me, and it can open up a big world for you. It can teach you just how to care for yourself daily and consistently. And it could be. It doesn't have to be skincare, but I hope that people see June and one day imagine it just beyond a product, because I hope it goes beyond product. But just remember our philosophy and mission that we all deserve to care for ourselves and care for ourselves well now and in the future.
Absolutely. My final question for you, we do a segment of what I wish I would have known. So going back to when you either first started the business or going into school, what is something that you wish you would have known that you now know that you could reflect on to give our audience, maybe people that are starting your business?
It's okay if you don't know everything. Yeah, I think I put that pressure on myself. Like, why don't you know it? Mm-hmm. It's okay when you don't know, and that's your opportunity to ask for help. I think I'm acting on that now for sure, but maybe starting out, not so much. I thought it was something I had to bear and weigh on my own, but you don't have to, and you shouldn't. Like, you should ask for help and receive as much help as you can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Morgan, for being on the
you.
pod. I know you didn't fly in for this specifically, but I think that it's so amazing that we were able to get together and just talk about June Skin, but also just talk about the amazing entrepreneur Black women that you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Taylor, for having me. Congratulations on 3 seasons of Two Decades Deep. This is amazing and such great conversation as well. So thank you.
Awesome. And I have one final question for those who have had Harold's. In your opinion, does mild sauce need to be on the chicken, or can you have it without?
On the chicken with salt and pepper. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Uncle Remus or Harold's?
Harold, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's some Chicago stuff. That's unfamiliar. But thank you so much, Morgan. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, we are uncovering who we are one chapter at a time, and we're unfolding at our own pace, and we're exactly where we need to be. Take care, everyone.